Well, hello. So I lost the pay-per-view predictions for the horror show at Extreme Rules, and as such, I have to vote. I have to watch one of the worst episodes of the '90s Goosebumps TV show, as voted by you on Blackbird's Twitter. I he told me how he figured out the barometer of which were the worst, but I forgot. But I am sitting here in my new, much more comfortable office chair, getting to watch Stay Out of the Basement on my new big screen TV that I use for a monitor now, that I got for free. Um, I don't know what to expect. I have positive nostalgic associations with Goosebumps. I read a lot of the books. I watched the show. I don't remember much about either. I can't imagine this is going to be too terrible, but you never know. So I'm going to stop recording here, and then when I get the all clear that a certain other video has finished uploading, I will be hitting play and watching this. So, see you soon. So, that was fine. I'd even say it was pretty good in places. I mean, first of all, he says he forgot, but it was a two-parter, which is fine, but uh yeah, well, he typically goes over the plot in his stuff, or at least tries to, so I guess I'll do the same thing, but girl named Margaret is really worried about her dad because he spends all his time in the basement, and I do have to give props because I feel like they did a really good job with the exposition. You know, the mom's going on a trip to take care of the sick aunt. And, the mom's just like, well, he was fired, and he's really into his work, stuff you would expect in a situation like this. And this is, again, but, Margaret goes, but he doesn't even call me princess anymore. Which, again, I thought was interesting. Or thought was, well done. And so the main thing I really liked about it is, there's the usual. She says, "Look, he's doing this weird thing," and the brother Casey and the mom go, "Oh, this happened." Like, she catches her dad eating, like, literally shoving plant food into his mouth. Calls mom, or I'm assuming the mom called them because she was on a payphone in that scene. And he's like, "Oh, it's just into his work," and I'm just. Around there, I'm kind of rolling my eyes because it's this cliche, and I'm just like, well, is this why it's a two-parter? Is this why it's going to be 20 minutes in? But, no, it it breaks that cliche, actually, more or less. Sorry. Um, this is one of the things where I just think is weird from a real world perspective. She spies on her dad in the bathroom, and she's able to do that because their bathroom door has those like blinds, so she's able to see between them, and that's just bad design because someone can watch you do your business. But yeah, at this point, the dad had been suddenly wearing a baseball cap. She sees him without the baseball cap, and he has leaves for hair, and he's wiping green goo. So, cut to the next morning after she's almost caught. Tries to tell her brother about it. Dad's downstairs making breakfast. And she, like, flat out calls looks like, "Look, I saw you. Why do you have leaves on your head? Why was green goo coming out of a gut on your arm?" And he goes, "Oh, well, it's because of this, this, and this." And he does it, like, almost casually. So, and the scene before that, like, cause, they go into the basement. Well, dad, this is second scene. Yeah, he barely does it in order. Don't expect me to. But while the dad is taking the mom to the airport, they go into the basement because they think they hear. And this is like the one thing I will say is to just come up with the silliest thing, because they hear noises coming from the basement. I'm like, okay, fine. And the brother Casey goes, well, maybe it's the wind, which is like the one time that's believable, because it sounds like the wind is like blowing over a pipe or something. I don't know if you know that sound. But she says, like, well, what if it's a cat and it's suffering? And I'm just like, sitting here, honey, is like, no cat sounds like that. But, so, they go into the basement, they see a bunch of weird plant stuff, they get cut, Margaret gets cut. Dad conks the car horn to let him know he's back. They come out of the basement, Casey just realizes he's forgot his jacket. Goes back down. And I actually have to say, like, with the exception of Casey, the acting's pretty good, at least with the dad and Margaret. Casey, even then, he wasn't that bad. There's just a couple lines to the end. It was like, this is really freaking awkward. But, the dad comes home and immediately just, like, stares him, and it's like it is something out of a horror movie. He's just staring him down. He's like, did you go in the basement? And then they don't even try to deny it because they're so freaked out, which, again, I think they sold really well. And he just, sits them down and says, okay, look, this is what I'm doing. You know how I used to be a botanist. I'm doing some genetic engineering. So, again, just the fact that it broke cliches like that, I really liked, because especially at first I was like, oh god, this is going to be the whole hour. Is Margaret saying, look at this weird thing, and everybody making excuses for it. And no, it wasn't that. It's like, even there's like one where I don't think they intended to break the cliche, because a professor comes from, I'm assuming, the university the father used to work at. The father tells the kids to go play outside while others out there. They're playing generic flying disc. The generic flying disc goes to the basement window. Casey goes to get it. He overhears them fighting. And this is actually where the cliffhanger for the two-parter happens. The vine comes up behind Casey and tries to grab him. And during this, the dad comes out, and again, he doesn't deny that, okay, my plant tried to kill my son. And this is where, things get creepy. He's like, well, yes, it tried to kill you, but one, you shouldn't have been near the basement window. Two, you ruined my experiment. And they're like, what happened to the professor? It's like, oh, he left. And that becomes, like, part of the dialogue for a little while, again, where I feel like it starts to get repetitive. It's like, oh, you said the professor left. It's like, well, did you see him leave? It's like, and just about every other horror movie or wherever you would see this cliche, and I would be like, yes, that is a valid point. But you were fighting with the death vine at this point. You could have easily missed him leaving. And, like, even you say, well, why didn't the professor come over and say, hey, what's going on over there? The father could have said, oh, they're just roughhousing, it's fine. And, say, well, what about a car? It's like, well, just speaking my own perspective, I don't drive, I don't have a license, I walk everywhere, and they didn't seem like they were completely cut off from the rest of society. I mean, I didn't see any other houses, there's nothing to indicate next door neighbors, so I'd say they're in like a suburban neighborhood where they have plenty of space, but it's clearly a town or a city, so, maybe he only lived a few blocks away. So, that one, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you could easily have missed him leaving, you were kind of, getting destroyed by a death vine. But, and then, things go on, this creepy things happen, but, and it's Margaret's immediately able to go, look, this isn't just me being weird, which I appreciated. I don't know what more specifics I could really go into. I also don't know how much room my phone has. But it turns out, eventually the only bad thing I can say is the same thing you could say of any movie like this, where the main characters are stupid. Like, the climax of the thing happens when the dad goes away for an hour, and this is after he's drilled padlocks onto the basement door and everything. And instead of, like, okay, things have just gotten way beyond creepy. The dad is acting like a serial killer, or even Casey, who is one of the main ones making excuses at first, he's just freaking terrified at this point. So the smart thing would have been able to do was like to pack an overnight bag and go to like Margaret's friend's house or something. But no, they break into the basement. Some shenanigans happen. Oh, the plants look bigger. That one that cut you, Margaret, now has a human face. They hear sounds, and this is actually like I don't think they intended to do it. They hear sounds coming from a closet. They open the closet, and they're like, "Huh, it's just ordinary plants." And I'm just like, considering everything else going on here, the fact that there are ordinary plants in this basement is kind of out of the ordinary. That should be like, huh. But no, the dad falls out, and he's tied up and has tape over his mouth. And they pull the tape off, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, it was horribly wrong. I accidentally made a plant copy of myself, and he overpowered me. He wants to make plant clones of everybody." And that, of course, cue evil dad showing up. And there's a classic spray him. Oh, because they found weed killer. Spray him, no spray him, no spray him. So real dad says, "Please, princess." And again, this is like one of the few bad things I can say about it. That should have been enough. Because, you see the look on Margaret's face. It's like, oh, but then he shouts at, "Princess!" So I'm like, okay, I know it's a cliche at this point to complain about the need to explain to kids, but there is no kid who didn't get that, okay? And so, yeah, they spray weed killer on the evil dad. Turns out he really was the plant monster. Again, like the final scene is, again, kind of unintentionally funny because the dad, who's now shaved up his bulb because he apparently did have leaves for his head because maybe he got some. I missed that part. The lighting was bad because supposedly the real dad also had leaves in his hair, but I couldn't tell. But he was shaved bald, so I didn't recognize him at first because he was also wearing glasses. And so they're helping the kidnapped professor load up a truck, and the kidnapped professor's like, "Oh, thanks so much for getting me out of there." Like, they're all laughing about it. And the dad explains, "This is what happened. A thing went wrong." And then I do remember this from reading the Goosebumps books a lot, and I knew it carried over to the show to an extent. I don't remember any specific examples, but the Twilight Zone ending, as I eventually started calling it, or heard it was called, where, this thing. So I think this is the thing where I think they maybe over-exercise, because there is a scene where, "Oh no, Dad's back already, we have to get out of this place we're not supposed to be into," and Margaret doesn't, because while wearing shoes in the house, she trips over her untied shoelaces. So, in the very last part of the very last scene, she doesn't go in because her shoe's untied again, and I just feel like, okay, that stands alone. Shoes come untied. We didn't need a check-off shoelace thing establishing that as an issue. But, as she's tying her shoe, a flower goes, "Psst, Margaret, I'm your real father, that's not your father." And then, like, one by one, all of the flowers in the bed start moving, and you hear voices. And some of them, I think, are comically exaggerated. Like, "No, I'm your father." But, so that was more or less it. Like I said, I think it was fine. In fact, I dare say it's mostly good. Like, I think if I watched this as a kid, I probably would have been, like, a younger kid, because I was a tween or early teenagers when this was huge. Technically older than I was probably supposed to be, because I could go through one of the books in like a day. That's how I am with most of my entertainment to this day, honestly. Still watch cartoons, don't at me. But yeah, it's like, if I'd seen this as like 8 or 9 or maybe 10, maybe 7, I think it might have given me a couple of bad dreams. The dad really did come off like a freaking serial killer at points. And the fact that he switched back and forth so many times in the beginning. Because when we first see him, his first line of dialogue is screaming at the kids, "Stay out of the basement." But then he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm stressed. I just worried about you messing up my work." And again, they established earlier he lost his job, so maybe he's stressed. But that scene when I was talking about when he comes back, he's got his arms crossed and he's just stone cold staring at the kids. Did you go in the basement? That's creepy, but then it's like, okay, kids, sat down. Dad's gonna talk to you. I know I've been freaking you out, but here's what's going on. He comes off like a normal sitcom TV dad. So, I think, honestly, I don't know. I barely remember what I've seen of the show. Like, the most I could say I remember about the show is there was one about, like, visiting a tower in London, and this is where I talk about where, this was going to be, like, a Sunday primetime special thing. So I borrowed that book from a friend, read it in a day, then watched the special. And even then, I can't tell you anything too specific. Other than they both involve time travel, because of course they did. So while I remember liking the show and watching the show, I have very few clear memories of it. The most I can remember is like a single scene from any given episode, or if one deviated pretty far from the book. So I have no litmus test to see if this is really one of the worst episodes. But if this is considered the worst, I imagine the rest of the show is actually really freaking good, because this was pretty good in places. I don't know if this is something I'll go back and watch the rest of on my own time, maybe as background noise for when I'm playing on my brand new Switch or something, but I don't know, I thought it was fine. Blackbird tends to say, when he ever does a light, easy punishment, I tend to get it, and I go, whatever. And when it's one of the more extreme punishments, he gets it. So he's in a damned if he does, damned if he doesn't situation. Because if he tries to screw me with a really harsh punishment, apparently it's going to happen to him. But yeah, I thought this was fine. Again, I dare say it was even good. Yeah, so I can't think of anything else to say. I'm recording this the same day we recorded another video. If you'll notice the shirt I'm wearing, that video is the preview / explanation video for the official TDOW channel that he uploaded before this. So, I don't know, I'll probably put a link in the description below. Yeah, there's your YouTuber point for the YouTube drinking game. Eventually, we've talked about this video, at least for now, is going to go on my own personal channel, but Blackbird and I have talked about how eventually we're going to put all the old punishment and prediction videos on the official channel. But in any case, that's all I have to say. I hope you're staying safe and healthy out there. Wear your fucking masks. And I'll see you next time. Well, I'll see you in a few weeks for the SummerSlam prediction videos, but that'll be with Blackbird. See you solo next time I lose? I don't know. Take care.